Hello and welcome everyone. A very warm good afternoon. I hope all of you are doing good. My name is Harshmeet Singh and I am here on behalf of Narayana IAS Academy. I hope all of you are doing good. I welcome you all to today's session of economics. As you know, in this ongoing prelims crash course, our endeavor has been to try and cover all the important topics from the current affairs point of view, especially in economics. This is especially aimed at helping those who are planning to write the prelims examination in May, that is the 25th of May. That's when this year's prelims examination will be held. We have had 9 classes so far. This is the class number 10. So far, we have discussed a bunch of topics. So if you are new here, if you have not seen any of the earlier classes, please do that. It will be extremely helpful for you. On the other hand, if you are one of those who is not writing the prelims this year, whose plan is to write the prelims next year or maybe beyond that, for you also, we offer a couple of courses specially designed for you. Depending on whichever is your target year, 26, 27 or maybe beyond, you can explore our 1-year and 2-year courses. These courses include holistic preparation for all the stages of the examination, starting from the prelims, then the mains examination and then till the stage of the interview. All these programs are designed to ensure that all the aspects of preparation are handled here, including prelims test series, including mains answer writing practice, current affairs classes, as much as you need for the examination. All of that will be included in this entire course. If you have any other doubts, any other question about this course, if you need any information about what exactly would it entail, what does it include, you can check out the description of this video. You will find a link there. You can go to the website. All the information will be available there. Feel free to get in touch with us and we will be happy to help you out with all the information about these courses. Now, with that out of the way, let's begin the topics that we have here lined up for you. The first topic that we have here that has been in the news quite a lot is something called the special mention accounts, or in short SMA. Now, in the banking terminology, this is a very commonly used word, that is SMA or special mention account. Just in case you have not heard about that, just in case you don't know what SMA is, I am very sure that you would have at least heard of something called the NPA. Now, what exactly are NPAs? Let's try and discuss that to have a very basic idea. The banks give out loans in order to earn money. The loan that they give out, they charge an interest on that. That is their primary earning. Now, when the banks give out loan, not all the loans are returned to the banks. There are some people who don't return the loan because of various reasons. Either the people themselves have gone bankrupt, so they don't have enough money to pay the loan back, or it may be a situation where they have defaulted willfully, they have the money but they are not willing to give it back. Because of all these cases, there may be a situation where the loan given by the bank is not returned to the bank. If the bank does not get any money, either the principal or the interest, if the bank does not get any money back for 90 days, 90, or beyond, then it is called an NPA. NPA stands for non-performing asset. Means this is an asset that is in danger right now. It is not giving any return to the bank. In the long run, if you ignore it, it will just become dead. However, NPA only is classified after 90 days. What happens before that? Before that also, when there are warning signs, the banks actually identify certain accounts that may not give the money back. So there are certain indications that the banks may get that this account seems a bit suspicious. Maybe the money is not coming back from this particular loan. Those accounts are termed as SMA, that is a special mention account. So in simpler terms, before an account becomes an NPA, before a loan becomes an NPA, before that, the prior stages to that are actually the stages of special mention account. That is, they become SMA first and later on they turn out to become what we call as the NPAs, that is the non-performing asset category. Now, why is it important and why is it in the news? First of all, it's in the news with respect to NPAs as well. The economic survey that was released by the government of India, the economic survey identifies the fact that the NPAs in India are at a 12-year lowest point. Now, this is a big achievement for the Indian banking sector. Please try and understand this. Over the past decade or so, there have been many issues with the banks. There have been multiple scams that have come out. You might have just heard in the news a few days back that Mehul Choksi, the person who was accused of carrying out the PNB scam, was arrested in Belgium. Now we are trying to bring him back. Now there was a time just a few years back when a series of these scams had come out, and all of them had taken humongous amount of money from the banks that was not coming back. So most of our banks were suffering from high NPAs. However, because of a lot of new initiatives by the government of India and the RBI, the result is that right now the NPAs in India are at their lowest point in 12 years. That is a significant achievement. As per the economic survey, the NPAs are at 2.6%. Means out of all the loans that have given, the entire amount that has been outstanding from the side of the banks, 2.6% is the only NPA. Remaining, all that money is coming back. All that money will find way bank or into the account of the bank. So that is a good achievement. Now, this is why special mention accounts also are important. Now, this is why the news is important. This is the context. Indian banks have more than 93,000 crore rupees in unsecured loans categorized as special mention accounts. Now, please understand a few terms mentioned here. One term that is mentioned here is unsecured loans. So, loans are basically of two types. You would have seen this. Let's say when you go and ask for an education loan from the bank. When you ask for an education loan from the bank gives you a loan. They don't ask you for a guarantee in return. So they don't ask you that, okay, I'm giving the money, in return, give me your property papers, give me the papers of an asset. So if the bank has given you a loan without taking any asset in return or without having any asset as a guarantee in return, that means it's an unsecured loan. Usually lower value loans are unsecured loans. Let's say education loans are usually unsecured loans. On the other hand, when you take a higher value loan, in that scenario, the bank will ask you to put some kind of a guarantee in return, some kind of a collateral in return, so that the bank is sure that if you don't pay the money back, they can sell off that asset and they can compensate for their losses. Let's say you go and take a loan for 1 crore. The bank will say, first show me some asset that you have worth this much amount already, so that in case the money doesn't come back, I will be able to sell this asset and recover my losses. However, the loans that don't have any collateral are called the unsecured loans. These are the dangerous ones for the banks. Banks usually don't offer unsecured loans unless they are of very low amount. So the reason why it is in the news is that loans over 93,000 crore in unsecured loans have now been termed as special mention account. Means these are accounts from where now there is suspicion that money might not come back. Again, they have not turned into NPAs. Please understand. NPAs is something that will happen much later on. That is when the 90-day period is breached. So when we have 90-day period in which the interest or the principal has not come back, then it becomes an NPA. Before that, it is SMA. So SMA are those category of loan accounts that are showing certain signs that it might not come back, the money might not come back. So what does a bank do? The bank must make efforts to contact the person who has taken the loan, see if the loan can be restructured in some way or the other. Restructuring means, for example, as per the loan, the person has to pay back EMI of 1 lakh rupees per month. And the person says, I don't have 1 lakh rupees per month now. So the bank may restructure the loan. Bank may say, okay, give me 50,000 rupees of EMI per month. We'll just extend the tenure of the loan. So restructuring may be an option, or there may be an option of a pause period that, okay, don't give me back the money right now, but start after 5 months or 6 months, depending upon the equation between the bank and the person who has taken the loan. These kind of negotiations usually take place, so that the bank can also avoid SMA accounts turning into NPA, because when it turns into NPA, that harms the bank immensely. Now, the SMA accounts, that is the special mention accounts itself, is of 3 categories. This is important for the examination to remember that. There are 3 categories of SMA accounts. First is SMA 0, then it becomes SMA 1, and then it becomes SMA 2. These are the 3 categories. Let's see, and to remember this, SMA 0 or special mention account number 0 is where principal or interest payment or any other amount wholly or partly is overdue for up to 30 days. Now, overdue up to 30 days means, let's say you had to pay your EMI by 15th of April. That was your EMI date. After this, if you have not paid on this day, the next day it becomes overdue. So if it is overdue for 30 days, means up to 30 days means up to 15th of May. This period will be the period where it will be called as SMA 0. So it will be an SMA 0 account in case you have not paid the money back that you owe for up to 30 days. If it goes beyond that, then it becomes SMA1, where principal or interest amount or any other amount is not repaid or it is overdue for 30 to 60 days. So basically, after this, let's say 15th of June, up till this period, if the money doesn't come back, if there is no part payment or whole payment that is made back, then it becomes SMA1. And then the next category is SMA2, when it goes up to 90 days. So if again it doesn't come back, no money comes back till 15th of July, then this account becomes SMA2. So SMA0, where the overdue or the pending payment has been pending for 30 days, up to 30 days rather. SMA1, 30 to 60 days, SMA2, up to 90 days. What happens after 90 days? As we just discussed in the introduction, after 90 days, it automatically converts into what you call as NPA. NPA is a word that is feared by the banks all around the country. And there is a very good reason for that. Why is it that the banks fear the NPA? Because this is a direct loss of the bank. This hurts their books immensely. This pushes the banks into losses. That is why these scams, the ones that have been handled by Mehul Choksi, Nirav Modi, etc., that's why these have in fact pulled down the valuation of PNB significantly. PNB, the market cap that it had, the valuation that it had, has been negatively impacted by these scams that have been run by these people. So that is why what the RBI wants is that don't wait till it becomes an NPA. The RBI tells a bank that if you have to take an action, if you have to, let's say, restructure the loan, if you have to negotiate and if you have to, let's say, do some kind of different type of restructuring of the loan, get in touch with the person much before it turns into an NPA. This is how the assets of the bank are classified. So there are standard assets. First one will be the one which has no delay at all. That's a regular kind of a loan. Regular loan of the bank means there is no delay at all. The loan is being repaid as and when it is due. When it is not paid back on time, it becomes a stressed asset. And stressed asset, as we discussed, is of two types: SMA0, SMA1, SMA2, depending upon till how much time is the amount due. Then on the other hand, when it becomes an NPA, that is when the delay is over 90 days, this is where the situation becomes bad for the bank. NPA again is of different types. If you actually see here, if there is a delay of over 90 days, it's an NPA. Then if the delay or if the NPA remains for up to 12 months, means up till 1 year, it's still an NPA, then it is called a substandard asset. All these definitions are important. Do remember, it becomes a substandard asset if the NPA continues for 1 year. If the NPA continues for over 1 year, it's called as doubtful asset. And finally, it becomes a loss asset. Loss asset is when the banks certify that now there is zero chance of us getting the money back. So when the banks identify or when the banks accept the inevitable that now we can't get the money back, this is too long gone, we have no chance of getting it back, this event becomes non-recoverable. This is something that the banks don't like. And again, I will repeat what I said in the beginning. India right now has the lowest amount of NPAs in the last 12 years. We have been consistently improving in terms of the NPA. And there are various reasons for that. These things don't happen by luck or by chance. We have had a lot of reforms by the government. For example, the insolvency and bankruptcy code that has been introduced, that has had a major impact. Also, the banks now giving out the loans have been asking for much more credible information. Yesterday, if you remember, we discussed about a topic called Unified Lending Interface. Unified Lending Interface by the RBI again is trying to do the same thing. That is, it is trying to make lending from the side of the bank safer for the banks and easier for the people who are taking loan. So it's a win-win situation for both the parties in such cases. There are certain other terms related to this. Banking related questions anyways are very commonly asked. There are certain terms related to this. Do remember and understand these terms first. There's something called unsecured personal loan. Now, see, there are different categories of loans. As I said, one is secured, one is unsecured. Secured or unsecured depends on whether you gave some collateral against the loan that you have taken. Secondly, there are different categories of loans depending upon the reason of the loan. So, there are certain loans that you take for a specific reason. For example, let's say you take a home loan, you take a car loan, education loan. These are loans that you take for a specific reason. You are taking a loan to buy a home or to buy a car or to get education. Then there are certain loans that are taken without specifically mentioning why do you want it or what is the purpose of that loan. That is called as personal loan. So when a bank says we are offering you a personal loan, what they mean to say is we'll just give you the money. How and where do you want to use it? We don't really care. So you can use it for traveling purposes, for buying a sofa, for buying an air conditioner, buying whatever you want. Because these personal loans give you a lot more liberty. You are not specifically, let's say, restricted for the application of it. These are usually come with higher rate of interest. They usually have a higher rate of interest. The difference also is in these kind of loans, home loan, car loan, education loan, etc., you don't get the money in your account. So the bank will transfer the money in the account of, let's say, the builder who is selling the home, or the car dealer who is selling you the car, or they will transfer the money to the college who is giving you the education. In case of personal loan, the money comes in your account. Then you are the owner of that money. It gives you a lot more freedom. So personal loans usually come with more interest rate because these are more difficult to get. Also, there is a phrase called systemic contagion. Contagion basically means it's a problem. One part of financial system could spread to other parts. It's contagious. If you remember, this is a word that you use with certain diseases. It's a contagious infection. It's a contagious disease. Meaning that if one person gets it, other people are also very much likely to get the disease, like the COVID-19 pandemic. The similar kind of a thing is how the financial markets work. You know, unfortunately, whenever we have a big scam, you see not just one bank, but multiple banks falling for it. Multiple banks actually come crumbling down because in most cases, a big industrialist would not just take loan from one single bank, they would take loan from multiple banks. So it's how the systemic contagion works, that is, it spreads from one system or one part of the system to the other. Credit bureaus, these are the organizations that collect and maintain your credit information. You would have heard of, for example, something like CIBIL. They give you a credit score depending on your credit history, the loans that you have taken, your repayment record, etc. Information collateral, that is the data that is used to assess whether or not you are worthy of getting the loan or not. All these information are taken into account before the bank decides whether they want to give you a loan or not. I highly recommend, if you did not attend yesterday's class, do watch that. Specifically, we discussed yesterday about a topic called Unified Lending Interface that has been started by RBI. One single digital portal, digital platform where, let's say, agriculturists, MSMEs can apply for a loan there. There will be multiple banks listed there. All the information exchange, all the data exchange can happen on that one single platform. They can get all the information and make a decision whether they want to give out the loan or not. So that is something that you can do. All these are related terms to SMAs. We were discussing about different types of NPAs also. I just showed you the flow chart as well. Not just the SMAs, NPAs also are of different categories. Substandard asset is an asset that remains NPA for less than 1 year, so up to 1 year. If it is still an NPA, it will be called a substandard asset for the bank. Then doubtful asset that has remained as an NPA that has been for over 12 years, still been an NPA only. Loss asset which the bank usually now thinks that it is not coming back, so they write it off their books. They don't show it as the capital that they have now. Before this, they still show it in their books that we have this much money to recover, and if we do that, we will be in profit. But now at this point, when they say it's a loss asset, means now they cannot show it in their account, they cannot show it in their books. They will just say that this asset is gone, it is not coming back any further. All these are important because RBI and bank related questions are very commonly asked by the UPSC in the prelims exam. Now, I told you in the beginning that India is going through a positive phase in the NPA sphere specifically, because our NPAs have reduced considerably. We have come at the lowest level of 12 years. There is a reason for that. There has been a concentrated effort towards changes in policy. There has been effort made by the RBI to make this happen. For example, we have seen debt recovery tribunal being set up. These tribunals, as you know, tribunals are quasi-judicial bodies that are set up for specific purposes. These are set up under Article 323A, 323B usually. Now, debt recovery tribunals specifically had been set up to reduce the time of the recovery that the banks take, usually from the institutions. We have Credit Information Bureau. They also have accumulated information with them about your past record. For example, let's take a simple example. Let's say you take a loan from HDFC, a huge loan that you do not pay back. Now you think, oh, I'm very smart. Now let me take one more loan from ICICI. How will they know what I did with HDFC? Third loan I will take from SBI, because how will they know what I did with other banks? But they will know. How will they get to know? This is where something called credit information companies come into the picture. So what do? All the banks have to share information about all the loan accounts with credit information companies. The most famous of them is called CIBIL, where they maintain a record of your repayment history. Have you been loyal? Have you been giving the money back on time or not? Based on that, you get a score. That score is available with all the banks. So they check that score, they check your payment history of the past loans that you have taken. On the basis of that, they will decide whether they have to give you the loan or not. So it's not that easy that you can just go ahead and take a loan from some other bank and cheat them, because all that information is freely shared between these banks. RBI asks the banks to share all this information so that the willful defaulters, etc., specifically do not get loan. There are then asset reconstruction companies that have come in. They are also called as bad banks. Bad bank or asset reconstruction company. They also play a very, very important role. Let's try and understand what do they do. It's a very interesting job. Let's assume that you are from the HDFC Bank, okay? You gave a loan of 100 crore rupees. Now with interest, the person obviously has to pay back the loan with interest. With that interest added, that amount now becomes, let's assume, 125 crore. Okay? So HDFC has to take back 125 crore from a businessman who took a 100 crore loan. Now that businessman is not giving the money back for whatever reason. He's saying, I don't have money, I'm into losses or whatever. Now what options does HDFC have? HDFC, one option is they can keep on trying, they can keep on waiting, but then they don't have that much energy in people to run after all these businessmen. So what do? Either they forget about this money entirely. That's not a wise thing to do. Otherwise, the other option is they will search for an asset reconstruction company. What do? They will tell HDFC Bank, don't worry, sell this loan to us. How? They will tell HDFC Bank, give all the documents, all the paperwork to me. In return, let's say I will give you 50 crore rupees. You take 50 crore rupees and now you forget about the loan. You imagine that the loan has been repaid. Remaining 75 crore was your loss, but at least you are getting 50 crore back. So you take 50 crores, now forget about it. Now it is my responsibility. They will say it is my responsibility to deal with this businessman. I will now go after the businessman and extract as much as I can out of this 125 crore. So this is a risk that the asset reconstruction companies are willing to take. They take a risk that, okay, I will give you a part money, part payment, you take this, and you assume that your account, your loan has been settled. Give the documents to me, pass on every information to me, give me the authority to go after the businessman, contact him, and now I will try and extract that money. This is where asset reconstruction companies come in. These are also called as bad banks. It's a similar kind of a situation. How much money would they give to HDFC? It depends upon their negotiation. There is no set rule for that. In most cases, they don't give the entire money upfront. They will give a part of money to HDFC and they will say remaining money we will give you once we get the money back from the businessman. So that is how it works, but this has helped the banks in at least getting back some of the money, if not all. Another very important landmark law in this regards to help the banks reduce their NPAs is something called the SARFAESI Act. You know, SARFAESI, it's a joke, but SARFAESI Act was an act of a time when the government was not too good in making short forms and full forms. These days, the government is so good in making full forms and short forms that every single short form is a name that you can remember. At that time, surface is nothing, not something that you can remember, but it's just a short form. Nowadays, the government first thinks of a short form and then they elongate it. Earlier, the government used to think of the entire name and then just put the initials together to have a short form. So, SARFAESI stands for Reconstruction of Financial Asset and Enforcement of Security Interest Act. Basically, what exactly is this? The idea was that if someone has taken the money from the banks and they are not giving it back, it might happen that these people have used a lot of money. They have used that money to buy a property, they have used that money to buy a car, they have used that money to buy some asset, etc. But the bank can't really do much with that because the bank was not authorized to sell those assets. They had to go through a long standing procedure, go to the courts, ask for the court's permission. Only when the courts and all permit could the banks take the assets into their hand and sell. The SARFAESI Act, on the other hand, said that there's a legal framework which grants the banks the authority to seize the immovable property that has been pledged to recover the debt without needing to go to the debt recovery tribunal. Because earlier, what used to happen was, let's say you took a loan against property. You gave your property as a collateral, as a guarantee. Now, if you are not paying the loan back, the bank could not just automatically sell your property. That is not how it works. The bank had to go to debt recovery tribunal, ask for their permission, fight a case there. When they allow the banks, only then they could sell the property. So it was a long process, expensive process for the banks as well. So the banks did not really like going to the debt recovery tribunal. The SARFAESI Act said that now, if the property was pledged to you and that money is not coming back, you don't have to come to debt recovery tribunal. You can just go ahead and start selling that property. We have also had debt restructuring. As I told you, debt restructuring means where the banks negotiate with the party that has taken the loan to negotiate how can we make it easier for you to pay the loan back. Maybe reduce the EMI burden, cut short the amount of EMI, extend the tenure. Somehow let's see if we can try and reduce the rate of interest on certain conditions so that the money can come back. Then 525 rule that was introduced in 2014. Now, what was that rule? It was mainly a flexible reconstructing of project, especially as I said for infrastructure, etc. Again, how can we restructure it in the long run? How is it that we can actually make it longer? The loan duration can be longer and it will not have as much burden on you to give the loan back in the short amount of time. That will also help you to pay the loan back. Additionally, we also had the Joint Lenders Forum established where banks were facing this problem. Let's say you took a loan from SBI, you are not able to pay it back. So what did you do? Many people used to take a loan from some other bank. Let's say they will take money from Axis Bank and they'll pay it back to the SBI. So now after 90 days, Axis will be after you that now pay my money back. Now you take a loan from a third bank and pay Axis back. So there was a cycle that was being formed by many intelligent people that you take a loan from one bank to fill in the loan or return the loan of the other bank. For that not to happen, there was a joint lenders forum that was established where the banks could come together and they could exchange information to make sure that they are not being used against each other, their money is not being used against each other. There is also something called the Mission Indradhanush. Now, don't be confused with Mission Indradhanush. This is a name that you might see with multiple government programs. For example, Mission Indradhanush is a similar kind of program that you will see for vaccination of kids in India as well. But this one is not related to vaccination. This is about how the government of India is trying to restructure and improve the function of the public sector bank. There is a 7-step approach. That is why it is called Indradhanush, that is the 7 colors. The idea is to ensure the appointments of the banks are done in a much more transparent manner by the banks bureau. Then capitalization, more money be put into banks. There is empowerment of the banks. For example, one big problem that the banks face is, you would have seen this whenever there are elections. Parties announce, if you bring us to power, we will write off your loans. Especially when they announce that agricultural loan, farmer loans will be forgiven. Whatever loan that you have taken, you don't have to pay it back. In fact, it has become such a trend that in many parts of the country, in many villages, farmers don't pay the loan back intentionally because they think, oh, election is nearby, let the election come in. The political parties anyways will promise that after election, if we win, we will forgive your loan, so why to pay the loan back? So these kind of things, especially with respect to public sector banks, because they are controlled by the government, these kind of things are a big worry for the banks, because the government controls their working, the government can decide which loan to forgive, which loan not to forgive. These, interestingly, in the past few years have come down. In the past few years, our politics has shifted more towards giving freebies of different types, free electricity, free water, etc. They have forgotten about recovery of loans. But if you go back 7-8 years, most of the political parties, especially in the state elections, the only thing that they used to promise was, bring us back to power and we will take away your loan, you don't have to give your loan, the loan will be forgiven. That has improved slightly. Debt restructuring has been started since 2015, especially for corporate, because most of the heavy loans that the banks give out are to the corporates. Hundreds of crores of loans. The common man, anyways, if you are a common man, a common salaried individual, the biggest loan that you will anyways take is a home loan. Apart from that, the loans that you will take will not be of that bigger value. Maybe if you are going for foreign education, that may be a big loan. But then the bigger loans, that is hundreds of crores and thousands of crores, are the loans that are usually given to the corporates. So it is from them that the problem of that loan not coming back starts. This is where debt restructuring for corporate has held. There's also asset quality review that is done. Now, what is this? So on a regular basis, the banks have to identify their loans that they have taken or they have given. They have to identify which are the loans that have a probability of going bad later on. So the loans that may go bad, the loans that may turn into NPAs later on, they have to be identified earlier, so that action can be taken against them earlier without waiting for them to actually go bad. Then there are some other things, such as I told you, asset reconstruction company called the bad banks, they have been introduced. It's the same thing. You may call it ARC, asset reconstruction company, or you may call it the bad bank. They do the same thing. They take over the money, or they take over the bad loan. They give out some money to the bank so that they can settle, and then they are the ones who run after those people. We also have the bankruptcy code, insolvency and bankruptcy code, introduced in 2016. Unfortunately, we do not talk a lot about this, but if you actually see the working of the Modi government, this is probably one of the biggest achievements of the Modi government in all these years, introducing or being able to introduce the IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of India. It has helped the banks to get back at least some amount of money from the companies that have gone bankrupt. We'll discuss in one of the next topics in detail what is this code, how does it work, what is the process, but it has been extremely helpful for the banks in getting, if not completely, but a part of the payment back from the loans that might go into NPA. Pretty interesting and important topic. I hope you understood this. If you have, read this question very carefully. It's a long question, and then try and answer this. I'll give you a few seconds. There are 4 statements. Read all of them carefully and see what should be the answer, then we'll discuss it. Done? If you need more time, feel free to pause on this screen maybe, think about the answer, and then you can test whether you got this right or wrong. With reference to special mention accounts, SMA, in the context of Indian banking, consider the following statements. Number 1. The SMA classifications were introduced as part of RBI's prudential norms to identify accounts as at the risk of becoming NPAs. That is correct. We discussed that is the purpose of special mention account, that before the account goes into a mode where it is NPA, 90 days have passed, money is not coming back. Before that, identify those initially so that action can be taken against them or action can be taken over them, so that the banks can start negotiations. So that is correct. Second, an account is classified as SMA 1 if principal or interest payment is overdue for more than 60 but not more than 30 and not exceeding 60 days. Correct or not? Remember, we discussed about 3 types of SMA, there was SMA 0, there was SMA 1, and there was SMA 2. The difference being SMA 0 is the one where it is due up to 30 days, SMA 1 means 30 to 60 days, SMA 2 means 60 to 90 days. So now go back to the statement. The statement is it is SMA 1 if it is pending from 30 to 60 days, that is correct. That is what SMA 1 is. So second statement also is correct. Let's go to the third one. Banks are required to submit SMA data to Central Repository of Information on large credits only for accounts with an exposure of rupees 10 crore or above. Meaning, when they are asking that when an account becomes SMA and it's a large account of over 10 crore or more, they must compulsorily send this information to RBI. Is it right? No. Why is it wrong? Because it is not 10 but 5 crore. If there is an account turning SMA and the loan that is outstanding here is over 5 crore, that information has to be shared by the banks with the central repository. It is controlled by the RBI. So yes, third one is wrong because the amount is 50 crore minimum, not 10 crore, or 5 crore minimum rather, not 10 crore. Fourth, RBI's guideline mandate that the banks initiate a joint lenders forum for SMA2 accounts to prevent spillage into NPAs. No. RBI encourages it that yes, when it becomes or when the situation comes that there is an SMA account, you should try and make a joint lender forum so that the banks can work together to identify whether multiple banks are involved or not. But this is not a compulsion specifically for SMA2 accounts. The compulsion part here is wrong. 1 and 2 are the only two statements correct here. 3 and 4 are wrong. The answer thus would be B. B is the correct answer here. I hope you got this one right. 1 and 2 statements are correct here. If you want, you can take a screenshot here. If you want to revise it later on, take a screenshot and read it later. Moving on to one more question. Again, read it carefully. See if you can answer this. Read all the statements regarding this question. Think what the answer should be, and before you make up your mind, I will want to take your attention here. You have to choose which of these is not correct. We discussed this yesterday as well. A lot of you skip this word somehow and end up marking the incorrect answer. So you have to tell which of these is not correct. Now think about it. Done? Okay. Consider the following statements regarding the role of SMAs in India's financial stability. First, SMA 0 classification requires the banks to monitor accounts based on quantitative factors like overdue payments rather than qualitative indicators. Is it correct? No, it is wrong. So basically the SMA 0 classification requires the banks to look into different types of indicators, not just about quantitative. Quantitative basically means how much money is being owed. In terms of quantity, how much money is being owed, how large the loan is, not look into the quality of it. That is wrong. It is actually the qualitative indicators that are taken into consideration and not just the quantitative. Second, RBI's first statement here is wrong. RBI's asset quality review in 2015 revealed significant underreporting of SMA account by public sector banks. Yes, that was a big problem. The RBI found out that a lot of public sector banks especially are actually underreporting the SMAs, means the amount of SMAs that they had. They were reducing the number while reporting to the RBI because they did not want to be seen as a bank that is going into a lot of losses. It's like underreporting your bad performance to your bosses. So second is right. Third, banks must maintain higher provision of SMA2 accounts compared to SMA 0, SMA 1 to mitigate the potential losses. Think about it. Should the banks have higher provision for these accounts? No, that is opposite of it. these are the accounts that are expected to go more into losses. So there should be lower provisioning for this and higher for the other ones. Fourth, as per RBI's financial stability report, SMA accounts have declined due to improved credit monitoring and recovery mechanism. Yes, that has happened because the RBI now has strict measures over the reporting, how the banks have to report at what frequency. It has improved the number of SMA accounts, that is, it has reduced it. You had to tell which of these is wrong, that means, so you have to tell which of these is wrong, that means 1 and 3 are wrong. The answer here would be A. The answer here would be A. The provisioning thing here is only for the NPAs. 1 and 3 here are wrong. Answer would be A. I hope you got this one right. If you want, you can take a screenshot here. Now I have a related question that was asked in the prelims examination earlier. This was a question asked in 2011 related to the banks, loans, these kind of things. Let's see if we can answer this. Read this carefully. Done? Made up your mind? Okay, if you have made up your mind, let's see. Why is the offering of teaser loans by commercial banks a cause of economic concern? Now, first let's try to understand what are teaser loans. Teaser loans are those loans whose repayment becomes more and more difficult as the time goes on. Let's take an example. The biggest example of this is home loan. Now, let's assume that you are buying a property that is under construction right now and you take a home loan for that. So, let's say if the property is of 1 crore rupees and you took a 1 crore rupees loan, that does not really mean that the bank will transfer all the 1 crore rupees into the builder's account or all of a sudden or all at once. That does not happen. The money is usually transferred step by step as the construction goes on. Let's say 20% of your house is built, then 20% money will go to the builder. Then 40% house is built, then remaining 20% money will go. So on the different stages of construction, depending upon that, the bank will release the funds. Now, the bank will ask you to pay the EMI back. The EMI will depend on how much loan has been given to the builder. So because at the first stage, only 20% of the loan has been given to the builder, the EMI that you have to pay back will be lesser. Next time when more loan amount has been going out, then EMI becomes larger, and then more loan amount has gone out, EMI becomes even larger. So the EMI, for example, of home loan keeps on increasing because the money that has been given from the bank to the builder also keeps on increasing. These are called as teaser loans. So in these kind of loans, usually the scenario is that initially the EMIs are paid back well in time, but later on when the EMI burden becomes heavier and heavier, you will see certain defaults creeping in here. This is usually a characteristic of the teaser loan. So with that knowledge in mind, let's now try and answer this question. Teaser loans are considered to be an aspect of subprime lending and banks may be exposed to risk of defaulters in future. Yes, as I said, the defaults usually happen in the future, not right now, because right now the EMIs that are being taken are lower, and as more and more amount is disbursed, there will be a time when the EMIs may become very high and then there will be defaults in the future. Second, in India, teaser loans are mostly given to inexperienced entrepreneurs to set up manufacturing export. No. As I said, teaser loans mainly are home loans, housing loans, home loans that are given in India. Those are categorized mainly as teaser loan because this is where disbursement is taking place in parts, and as more and more disbursement goes out, more and more will be the EMI burden, and that's when it becomes dangerous. So one only is correct. The answer here would be A. A would be the correct answer. Second statement here is wrong. This was the question asked in 2011. If you wish, you can take a screenshot from here. It will be helpful for you. Moving on to the next topic. The next topic that we have is called credit information companies. We discussed about credit information companies slightly earlier in the first topic. The one that you might have heard of, or especially if you are a working professional, if you're someone who has taken some kind of a loan from the bank, the one word that you might have heard of time and time again is people asking you what is your CIBIL score. Now, people ask you what is your CIBIL score. Now, what is CIBIL score? What exactly is it? CIBIL score is a score given to you based on your financial record. Now, what exactly is the financial record? Your financial record, for example, includes credit cards that you have, how much have you used, do you pay back on time or not, the loans that you have you paid back or not, are you someone who defaults on the loan or not. All this information is actually shared with companies that are called as credit information companies. The best known of these companies is called CIBIL. So CIBIL is nothing but a credit information company which maintains records of all these people, and when the banks have to give you a loan, they will check what is your CIBIL score. For example, the range of CIBIL score is 300 to 900. That is their range. So the higher score that you have, more are the chances that you will get a loan, and the higher score that you have, more are the chances that you will get a loan at a better rate of interest. Because for example, let's say if you are someone who has a CIBIL score of over 800, let's assume this, that you have a CIBIL score of over 800, that means the bank now knows that you are very, very likely to pay the money back. The bank knows that you will pay the money back, there is no issue with that, and the bank will be willing to offer you at a lower rate of interest. On the other hand, if you are someone who, let's say, has a CIBIL score of less than 700, then there is suspicion that you may not pay the money back, there may be something wrong with you. This is where the situation is that you have to maintain a good CIBIL score, and that is why you should pay your credit card bill on time, you should pay your housing or whatever loan that you have, you should pay it all back on time. Now, these companies, because they have so much of our private information, now imagine this. There is a private company, CIBIL is a private company. These are private companies who have all the information about my payment history. They know at what time do I pay the credit card bill back. They know whether am I paying my loan back or not. So there's a lot of personal information that is shared with them. So these companies obviously have to be regulated. So they do come under RBI. RBI allows them to work. RBI in fact gives instructions to the banks also that you have to share information with them on a timely basis. One other problem with these companies is that they may not update the data real time. That becomes a problem. Now imagine a situation. Let's say that you gave your loan amount back, or you closed your loan. You took a loan from HDFC, you closed your loan, you paid all the money back. But HDFC has not told to this company so far. So CIBIL in their account will keep on showing that you are someone who has not paid the loan back. So without you committing a mistake, without you defaulting on your loan, your CIBIL score may go bad just because HDFC did not report it to them. Or let's say HDFC has reported it to them, but they have not highlighted in their account. That becomes a big problem. There was a news a few months back that there was a wedding going on, I think in Bangalore it was. There was a wedding going on, or wedding starting, where one of the relatives of the girl, close relatives of the girl, family member, he asked for the CIBIL score of the guy. And when they found out the CIBIL score is not that good, they called off the wedding. They said, if you can't even repay the loan back on time, how will you take care of a girl? So CIBIL scores are increasingly important, especially if you're a salaried employee, if you're someone who has taken loan or who intends to be a part of this financial system. So RBI, why is it in the news? RBI has increased the frequency of reporting of credit information by lenders, including banks and FCFCs, to these companies. So far what used to happen was that banks had to give information to these companies on a monthly basis. So last month, whether you paid money on time or not, whether you paid your bill on time or not, whether you paid EMI on time or not, last month, whatever you did will be told to them once in a month. So there was very slow updation of the account. Now what RBI has said, rather than giving information once in a month, the banks or the NBFCs should give information to these companies fortnightly, means twice a month, so that when the information is given to them in a quicker manner, in a more frequent manner, they would also be able to make changes in the credit score more frequently. So if someone is giving out a loan to individual, they can check the CIBIL or these credit score in a much more effective manner, because the information here will be given out at a much smaller interval and a much larger frequency. These companies, as I said, these are financial companies, but they are independently working. They are private companies, mainly these are not run by government. They are regulated by the RBI. For example, RBI tells the banks that you have to share information with them. Each bank has to share information with at least 2 of the credit information companies. It's not that you can't share information, the banks must share information, even the NBFCs, because they also give out loans like Bajaj Finance, etc., LIC, they give out a lot of loans. So they also have to, they also must share credit information with these credit information companies about the people who are taking the loan. These CIC, that is the credit information companies, they are governed by Credit Information Company Regulation Act. So there is a law about it. These are laws under which this company has been formed. Again, these are private companies. Just that there's an act that talks about what will be their powers, what can they do, how would they be run, etc. They also have to run ethically and protect the privacy, because this is extremely, extremely important. They have a lot of important financial data. They know this, your spending pattern. They know how much you spend in a year. They know how much you spend in a month. They know the real picture. This is something that is extremely personal, extremely private to you. So not something that should be shared. This is why there are very, very strict privacy regulations over these companies. This is what they do. They collect your information. The information mainly is about your credit score. See, understand, they don't give you a score based on how much money you have in your account or how much you are earning. Don't be confused with that. Don't think that if someone is earning 1 crore rupees a year, their CIBIL score will always be much higher than someone earning a few thousand rupees. That is not how it works. The CIBIL score or the credit score is not based on the money in your account. It is not based on how much you are earning. The CIBIL score is about the credit or the loan that you had taken. Are you paying that back on time or not? So even if you took a very small loan, that loan you repaid on time, that means you will have a good CIBIL score. If you did not pay the loan back on time, that means you'll have a bad CIBIL score. As simple as that. They are not focusing on how much money you have in the bank, how much you're earning, etc. They use this information, and all of them have their own metric. CIBIL, for example, as I said, one of those organizations that has a metric of 300 to 900 score. Every other company can have a different kind of a metric. They give scores. That is how the banks determine your credit worthiness. For example, next time when you go to a bank and ask for a loan, any kind of loan, the first thing they will always ask you, what is your CIBIL score? And they don't even have to ask you, they can get your CIBIL score from the CIBIL bureau itself. They can ask them what is the score of the individual, and they will give the score. And then the bank will decide on the basis of that whether they want to give you the loan or not. These are some of the companies that are working in India right now. CIBIL, as I said, is the most famous of these. It is called Credit Information Bureau Limited. But this is not the only one. There are many other companies doing the same kind of a stuff. They give different scores. They are working in India. There is something called Equifax, Experian, High Mark Credit Information Services. All these are doing the same thing. And all these have been issued licenses by the RBI, because see, these are not some random company. These are companies that have, as I said again and repeating, a lot of very sensitive personal financial data of Indians. So RBI cannot just randomly allow them to misuse this data in whatever way that they want. There are regulations in place that the RBI actually puts into them. Now, these are the things that have been told by the RBI to these companies. This is how they'll have to operate. These are regulations upon them. First, review of the search and match logic. So basically, these companies, when the banks ask for data of any individual, let's say my name is Harshmeet Singh, I have submitted for a loan application at Axis Bank. They will ask CIBIL that a person by Harshmeet Singh's name has applied for a loan, check their account and tell me your data. Now, whether that account is of me or someone else by the similar name, or there is a mistake there, which account has been fetched, which information has been checked, it depends on the algorithm that they use. So the RBI will review this semi-annually. They will review this at least once in 6 months, whether your algorithm is working fine or not, whether the information is updated or not. Secondly, root cause analysis will be done. That is, the complaints. So a lot of people also file complaints. For example, let's say I have never defaulted on any loan in my life. I have given back all my loans on time without any issue. But even then, let's say in CIBIL, my score is bad. In CIBIL, it might be showing that I have defaulted on a lot of loans. So I will have to file a complaint to them. So this also, how quickly the complaints are resolved, what is the process for resolving these complaints, that is also taken into consideration. The board approval results and changes resulting from any analysis should be presented to the board of directors for review. So the company, whenever they have to change their method, if any review of their working has to happen, they have to first get it approved by the board of their company to get it approved, to get it in practice. Timely data ingestion, the CICs will have to ingest credit information data received from their CIs, that is within 5 calendar days rather, earlier it was 7, meaning that whatever information the banks give to these companies, let's say Axis Bank told the company that this individual did not pay his EMI last month. Whatever information has been given to these companies, they will have to now show it in their account, means they will have to take that into consideration within 5 days. Whatever changes they have to make to the score of the individual. Earlier, they had a 7-day time period. Within 7 days, they had to make the change. Now, when they receive the information, within 5 days, they would have to make the change. They will have to make sure that it is highlighted in the records or in the score that they have. Disclosure of complaints. If they receive any complaint against them, they would have to show it on their website. They will have to show that yes, there are complaints that are received against us. As I said, filing a complaint against them is not very uncommon, especially for individuals who think that there is no reason for my record to go bad. So why is it that even if I have paid the loan back on time, why is it that my score is low? These are the kind of complaints that you can file against them, and they would have to highlight these complaints. They can't hide the complaints that have been received by them. Now, if you were able to understand this topic entirely, I hope you should be able to answer a few questions. Let's see. Read this carefully. Read this and make up the answer in your mind. If you want some more time, maybe you can pause on this screen also and think about what the answer should be. This is about the topic that we just discussed. You can pause on the screen if you wish. All right. With reference to credit information companies in India, consider the following statements. Number 1. The CICs are regulated by the Reserve Bank of India under Credit Information Company Regulation 2005, exactly what we discussed. These are regulated by RBI. These have to take license from the RBI. Only when the RBI allows you to function, you can, because again, they are working as an integral part of the financial institution, financial system in India. They carry a lot of personal information, and that is why they can't just be allowed to randomly operate. RBI first allows them, regulates their working. Second, all scheduled commercial banks are mandated to share credit data with at least 2 CICs as per RBI guidelines. That is also correct. I discussed this with you earlier. That is, the banks can choose which are the credit companies which they think are more trustworthy. They can choose them, but they would have to necessarily share data with at least 2 of these credit information companies so that they have an updated records of individuals across the country. Third, Credit Information Bureau Limited, this CIBIL, is the only CIC authorized to provide credit scores to individuals. No, we discussed this. There are 4 big companies, there are 4 major organizations that work in India to provide credit scores. CIBIL is the biggest or the most well-known one. We also have Equifax, Experian. So there are multiple, 4 major ones that do that. CICs are required to update credit information within 7 days of receiving data from member institutions. What did we discuss? This has now come down to 5. It used to be 7 earlier. that their whatever information, for example, let's say the banks give to these companies, within 7 days these companies should highlight in their credit score, should change the credit score of the individual depending on the information that they get within 7 days, but now that has been cut short to 5 days. So within 5 days, see, the earlier they do it, the better, because that is the more updated their account will be. So earlier that they do, the better. 5 is the norm now. So the answer here would be 1 and 2 are correct, that is B. 1 and 2 are the only statement that are correct here. Just a second. That is B. Third and fourth here are wrong, and we discuss the reasons as well. If you want, you can take a screenshot as well. That will help you revise later on why third and fourth here are wrong. There are multiple companies available in India, and it is 5 days now. 7 was a norm earlier. Let's move on to the next one then. Another question, read this carefully, make up the answer in your mind, think about what the answer should be. But before you do that, quick reminder, this is asking you which of these is not correct, okay? Which of these is not correct. So think about the incorrect ones and then lock in your answer. Done? All right. Consider the following statements regarding credit information companies and their role in India's financial system. First, CICs provide credit reports that include both positive and negative credit behavior of borrowers to member institutions. Yes. So, the banks, for example, will not just say that, oh, this person did not give the EMI on time. They'll also say that the person gave the EMI on time. So that, for example, let's say if you have defaulted on one EMI, which you may, because of whatever reason, let's say you lost your job and you defaulted on one EMI, you did not pay back on time. But that doesn't mean that your score will be bad forever now. When you keep on paying EMIs on time later on, as more and more on-time EMIs come in, automatically your score will start to improve. So the improvement in the score can happen because positive information is also shared. It is not that they will only share information of this has defaulted or that person has defaulted. They will also share information about on-time or regular payment. So that is what helps you rebuild your score. RBI introduced public credit registry in 2023 to replace CICs for centralized credit data management. Obviously, no, CICs have not been replaced. We have been studying about CIC in this topic. If you remember yesterday, when we were discussing the topic of ULI, Unified Lending Interface, for that we discussed about public credit registry. This is a pilot project that the RBI is running. Again, they are trying to, or they have piloted this project of an online portal, Unified Lending Interface, where banks can register themselves, people who want to borrow money can register themselves, and then they can try and see if the institutions are ready to offer them loans, and the information will be available there. You would not personally have to submit a lot of your documents. The credit information will then be available in this public registry rather than a few companies controlling it. Next, individuals can access their credit reports from CICs free of charge once every calendar year. That is true. So once a year, you have the right that you can ask what your score is. You go to CIBIL website, and once a year, you have the right to ask them the score. You can ask it after that as well, means more than once, but that is chargeable. But once a year, that is free, so that you can know yourself where my score is, and you can then make efforts to improve it. So if you think that somehow your score is deteriorating, your score is reducing, you do have the right to know about this so that you can improve it later on as well. So for that, at least once a year, you have the right to get your score free. More than that, there will be charges attached to that. As per Economic Survey 2024-25, CICs have facilitated a 20% increase in retail credit penetration since 2020. No. See, such kind of a data is almost impossible to get. Means the Economic Survey, etc., may say that yes, these companies have been able to make credit more accessible. These companies have been able to have better credit penetration, means loans are given out in more number. But they can't identify formally that okay, this has led to 20% increase in loans going out or 25% increase in the loans going out. That is not usually how it works. So while you can identify what exactly or whether it has a positive impact or not, but to put these things into a certain number, into a certain percentage, that is not usually how it works. That is incorrect. So the answer here, you have to tell which of these is not correct. 2 and 4 are incorrect, so the answer here would be A. Okay, A is the answer here because of 2 being incorrect along with 4. If you want, you can take a screenshot here as well to revise it later on. Now I have a related previous year question for you, something that you should know about. Read this carefully and try and answer. All right. What is the purpose of setting up small finance banks in India? Small finance bank is a very important topic in banking. You would have read about this a few years back. The government of the RBI rather rolled out 2 different kinds of banks, payment banks and small finance banks. So there are many small finance banks like AU Small Finance Bank, Bandhan, all these are small finance banks that you have. They were rolled out for specific purpose. What exactly were these? Number one, to supply credit to small business units. Yes, that was one of their objectives. To supply credit to small and marginal farmers. Yes. To encourage young entrepreneurs to set up business, particularly in rural areas. Yes. All these are objectives of small finance bank. As we go on later on in one of the topics, we will discuss tomorrow most probably, we will discuss about what exactly are small finance banks, how and why were they set up, how are they different from payment banks in India, what are the advantages and disadvantages that these banks have. Because I hope that all of you have read economics once, I really hope that you have already read about what exactly are these small finance banks. Answer here is D. I hope you got this one right. All these are objectives, purpose of small finance banks. If you want, you can take a screenshot here for your revision purposes later on. Moving on to the next topic that we have. Next, an extremely important topic, not just from the examination point of view, but from the context of how important it is for our Indian economy and the banking system. That is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. Now, remember in the first topic, when we were discussing about NPAs and SMA accounts, we were discussing about the idea that one of the reasons why the government of India has been able to bring down the NPAs is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. It has played a very significant role in bringing down the NPAs. Now let's try and understand in simple terms what is it and what does it do. Let's imagine a situation where a big company has taken a huge loan from a bank. So let's say there's a company that has taken a loan of 1000 crore from a bank, okay? Now this company builds its office, builds certain infrastructure, buys some property, starts to do business. Over the years, they start facing many losses and somehow the business is not being run properly. The owners or the chairman, director, whoever it is, the CEO, they are not able to run properly. Because the business starts going into losses, now they tell the banks that we can't pay the money back. Okay. Now the problem is, what do the banks do? The banks can't forcefully take over the company. They can't sell the property of the company because the loan that was given was not against that property. So now what do the banks do? Because the owner of the company will keep on telling the bank, no, don't worry, everything will be fine. I will turn around everything. It is just a phase. We will go through it. I'll pay the money back. But the banks are looking at it and they know the money will not come back like this. So what happened earlier was there was not much option for the banks. The banks really could not do much there. Now with the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, there is a proper mechanism set up of how would the things go ahead in such a case where the company has taken money from bank or multiple banks and they are not able to repay the money. The banks want their money back. The company does not have any money. Now what happens here? So the process is now the companies will have to approach NCLT. NCLT is National Company Law Tribunal. So the companies or the creditors, basically the people who have given the loan, they will go to NCLT and their demand will be that this company is not being able to run properly. So now you do something so that the money is given back to us. Now what does the NCLT does? NCLT will see whether there is logic in the petition filed by the bank or not, whether the company is actually not paying the money back. If NCLT now thinks that yes, the company is not paying the money back to the bank, the company is not being run properly, now NCLT, what will it do is, NCLT will appoint an external independent individual, someone called insolvency resolution expert or insolvency expert or insolvency professional rather. A independent insolvency professional will be appointed by the NCLT to take over the control of the company. So the existing management of the company, the CEO, the director, the MD, etc., will be asked to set aside, and this insolvency professional will now start running the company. It is his responsibility now to see, number one, can the company be revived or not? That is the first option available. If he can try and run the company in a manner, can the company become profitable again? If it can become profitable again and it can bring the loan back or give the loan back, that will be the most preferred option available, number one. Secondly, if the insolvency professional thinks that that is not possible, that it has gone into so much of losses that it just can't go around or it can't be run profitably now, second option the insolvency professional has is they will see whether some other company is ready to buy out this company or not. Can some other company acquire this? If some other company can acquire this, that money will then be used to pay back the loan to the banks and the other investors that have come on board. That is the second option available. If that also is not happening, means number one, company can't be run profitably. Second, no one is ready to acquire the company. Then the third option is, can we just liquefy the company's asset? Liquefy the company asset means one by one, start selling whatever the company owns. Sell the property, sell the building, sell whatever technology the company has. Whatever money then is earned, that money should be given back to the banks. This is how the process is. This is how this insolvency process takes place, and all this is done under the IBC Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. This is why it has been able to reduce the NPAs significantly. Usually, whenever a company goes into these proceedings, a company is declared bankrupt and someone takes over the charge of the company, in most of the cases, they are not able to run it profitably. No one acquires a company. In most of the cases, companies' assets are liquefied. That is usually what happens. Now, related to this code, we have the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. They are the ones who actually are responsible here for running the entire operation. So this Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, why is it in the news? It has issued new guidelines to streamline the process for appointing insolvency professionals. As I told you, who are insolvency professionals? These are the people who will be asked to take over the company's operations. These will be the one who will then take decisions and CEO, MD, director, whoever was taking the decision earlier will be asked to go away. They will be asked to set aside. In their place, decision will be taken by insolvency professionals. So it is extremely important to see who these professionals would be, whether the professional is actually neutral or not. Because what happens in this case is company owners and the banks are two different parties. No company owner would want that the control of the company should go away from them. Every company owner would want the control of their company. Banks, on the other hand, would want that no, the owners of the company should not control because they are not giving my money back. So it is actually two parties going into different directions. banks want something else, the company owners want something else. This is a very critical situation. That is why when the insolvency professional comes in, it is essential that the individual is neutral. If the insolvency professional is someone who favors the company owners, then he will not run the company independently. He will take orders from the company owners only. On the other hand, if the insolvency professional is in favor of the banks, is a person who the banks or the bankers like, then his entire point of view, his entire priority will be how can I get the money back to the bank. So it has to be a person who is neutral in between, who is looking after the interest of both. That is why there are specific guidelines that are required to see who can be this insolvency professional who will take over the company. Now, this is what the board is, I told you earlier. The board has been formed under the IBC, that is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of India of 2016. It provides a framework about how can the companies become insolvent, and mainly the idea was when the companies go bankrupt, when they don't have money, when they're going into losses, even in that case, banks should recover at least some of their capital. Just because a company has gone into losses, just because a company now does not have any money to pay back, that doesn't mean that the bank should have to bear all the losses, because the bank did not give them the money for that. So the entire idea is to reduce the NPAs, and not just the banks. See, there are so many lenders, there are so many investors who give money to companies. Look at the startups. There are so many companies who go down after taking the money from the after taking money from the investors. So investors also in the same boat. They also want their money back, if not entirely a part of their money back, and that is what is done by IBC. Here's a bit of other information about this. This board, that is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board, it is headquartered in Delhi as expected. It is governed by a chairperson. Apart from chairperson, it has 3 whole-time members. There is a member from RBI as well, and there are 5 members nominated by the union government as well. So it's a big board that regulates the working of the insolvency professional, and that regulates the working of this entire process about whether or not it is being done in a neutral manner, whether or not the insolvency professional is favoring the company or whether they are favoring the lenders, the banks, because both of these have their own agenda hidden. These are the things that the board has to do. First, have a regulation over who will be the insolvency professional. Now, again, the professional or the agency that is given the responsibility to run that company or liquidate that company, they play an extremely important role. Because see, it's not a small matter. In most of these cases, the money that is involved is of thousands of crores of rupees. So when thousands and crores of rupees are involved in such a matter, it's extremely important to have a keen eye on who is the one who is appointed to run the company, who is the one who is making those decisions. So there's a proper oversight that is required. That is what the board does. Secondly, they also enforce the rules. They make sure that all the rules and regulations of the bankruptcy code are followed by that professional. Step-by-step process is followed or not. And thirdly, they also are the authority that validate all these professionals. So a random person can't say that, oh, I will be the insolvency professional. You have to fulfill a lot of qualification. The board is the one that certifies you that, okay, you are the one who is eligible to run this organization, to run this company and run this entire process. This is where insolvency professionals come in. This is where Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India plays a role. The 2016 law, and I have told this earlier, I'll repeat this once again. We don't talk about this often, but this is one of the biggest achievements of the government ever since Prime Minister Modi took the post of Prime Ministership, because it has played an important role, an extremely important role in reducing the NPAs in the country. The reason why we are at the lowest point in 12 years of our NPAs in India, a lot of the credit must go to the IBC, that is the Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Code of India. Now, this is what it does. It ensures that the companies that are going bankrupt, again, bankrupt means a situation where the money that you have taken from the banks, from the investors, you are not in a position to pay that money back. It happens with a lot of these. Now, I don't know if you read business news or not, but if you are someone who is regular viewer of a business news, you might know about a company called Blue Smart. It's a cab company like Uber and Ola, the difference being that they only run electric cars. They run pretty commonly in Delhi NCR, especially Gurgaon, Delhi, Noida. You will see their cars. They were once considered as a company that could rival Ola and Uber, could push Ola and Uber out of India. And now this is the company that has been embroiled into a lot of controversy. They are again on their way of becoming bankrupt. Bankrupt means when you have outstanding loan and you don't have the money to now pay it back. Your operations, the business from where you are supposed to pay the money back, that is not working out. So now what happens? The step-by-step process is the banks who have given this loan to this company, they together will go or can go to NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal, and they together will demand that because we are not getting our money back from the company, we demand that an insolvency professional is appointed here. So this insolvency professional will either try to run the company. If that is not happening, then they will try and see if the company can be acquired. If someone, let's say Uber, can acquire this company. If that is also not happening, then the third option will be they will liquidate the asset. So whatever cabs are owned by them, office spaces owned by them, any other asset that they own, that will be sold. The money that is then earned from selling of these assets, this money will now be given to the banks in a proportion that they have blended the money to the company. So that is how it works. This is how the code basically provides a time-bound process that is driven by professionals so that the banks don't have to wait just indefinitely to get their money back. They also help resolve insolvent companies, because again, it may be a position where the owners themselves are not able to run the company. They would want someone external to come in. This is the problem that has been solved by the IBC, that is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Now over here, there are a couple of organizations that are extremely important in this entire process. The first organization, and I've talked about this, that is important in this entire process is NCLT, the National Company Law Tribunal, because this is where the matter will go. They will be the one who will decide whether the company will continue to run like it is running right now, or whether an insolvency professional will take over the operations of the company. So it is the NCLT where the matter goes. They are the ones who take a call. They are the ones who will decide whether the company is bankrupt or not. Secondly, there is a debt recovery tribunal that has jurisdiction over individual and partnership firms other than LLP, limited liability company. There are different ways in which the companies are registered. There are LLPs, limited liability company. Now, limited liability partnership is a very common way of getting your company registered. I'll give a simple example here. Let's assume that you open up a company, okay, and your company is limited liability partnership, LLP as it is called. You take a loan from the bank for your company, and that loan is of 100 crore rupees. You want to run your business. Now, let's say you started running the business, and you are running it with a good intention. There's no fraud, but just that the business did not go well. You could not earn money, and now you can't pay the loan back. Now, does the bank have this option that because you can't pay the loan back, can the bank now say, okay, I'm taking your house now? The house that is your privately owned house, that has got nothing to do with the company, but because you are the owner of the house and you are the owner of the company also, you took the loan for your company, so I'm taking your house, or I'm taking your car also. Can they do that? No. This is where limited liability partnership comes in. Limited liability partnership means the liability of the bank or the liability of the person, the loan that he had taken, is limited to the company. So if the bank has to take the money back, recover the money, they can't take your personal asset. They can only recover the money from the company, the money or property owned by the company, not something that you will personally own. That's how limited liability partnerships work. That is why you would have seen that when the issue first came up against Vijay Mallya, that he has defaulted on a lot of loan, then there were questions asked, why are the banks not taking over his private property? If he has so many private properties, a villa here, a bungalow there, a villa in London, why are the banks not taking over that? Because they can't. Companies are registered as LLPs. So the bank that has given the loan is for that company, for that business. If they can't take the loan back or they can't pay the loan back, that does not mean that the bank would have the right to take the asset, the personal asset of the owner. That is not how it works. That's how limited liability partnerships are. On that note, let's see if you can answer a few questions here. Read this carefully, see if you can answer this, take your time and make up your mind what should be the answer here. Think about it. All right. With reference to Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, consider the following statements. Number one, the IBBI was established under Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016 as a statutory body to regulate insolvency professionals and processes. Absolutely correct. This is what we discussed. Since it is established under a law of the parliament, it is a statutory body. They are the ones who will choose or who will give certification to insolvency professionals, who can then be a part of this entire process, taking over the company's operations and doing this process step by step for this board. Second, it has the authority to appoint resolution professionals directly for corporate insolvency resolution processes. This is a tricky statement. It is wrong. So, insolvency professionals, see how are they appointed? It's a very critical method. It's a critical point here because insolvency professional essentially should be neutral, as I said, to the interest of both the parties involved here. So, what happens usually, the insolvency professional is suggested, the name is suggested by the creditors. Creditor mean the banks, the investors who have taken the money. So, they are the ones who will, for example, let's say come up with a name from the available option that this is the person who we think is largely suitable. Because see, it all depends a lot on the history of this person as well. Let's say you are talking about a company here that is into manufacturing of goods. So, if you are choosing a professional to run such a company, you would want a professional who has a history in understanding or running of these companies. If the person doesn't even know how such companies are run, how can he work as an insolvency professional? So, you have to have these people who have kind of a history or background of running these. So, first usually the creditors or the banks will come up with the name, and then the owners of the company or the company that has taken the loan, their opinion is also asked. So, it's more of a negotiation between the two. Wherever both the parties agree that okay, this is a neutral authority, a neutral person, they are the ones who are usually appointed. It is not the board that will appoint these professionals. Board is the one that will give you the list that these are the certified professionals that can come in, and then the creditors and the companies will have to come up and try and basically come to a name that is common for both of them trust, both of them suggest it's a neutral person. IBBI introduced the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process for MSME in 2021 to expedite debt resolution. That is correct. MSMEs have been suffering from this issue of a lot of loans going bad. A lot of MSMEs had to go through this process. So, there was a pre-planned proposal said that when an MSME comes into this process, what will happen with them. Step-by-step process was suggested, and that has actually helped a lot of MSMEs save a lot of time and not go through this entire process. So, yes, that is correct. As per IBBI's 2024 annual report, over 50% of resolved corporate insolvency cases resulted in liquidation rather than resolution. That is correct. I told you in the beginning as well when we were discussing, when a company undergoes and starts the process of bankruptcy, although the first option is resolution, that is they try and see if the professional can start running the company profitably. Can the company go back to the glory days, start making a profit again, give the money back to the banks? That is the first option available, but that is something that almost never happens. The reality is that in most of the cases, the company eventually has to be liquidated only. Because imagine this, the owner of the company that has started the company, if they can't run it profitably, even though they would want to, there's a very little chance that someone from outside will come in without much knowledge of the business and say, now I will run the company, I will do it professionally. So, that usually does not happen. In most of the cases, thus it leads to liquidation of the company is sold, assets are sold, and then some money is given back to the banks. That is correct. The correct answer is then 1, 3 and 4. A would be the answer here. I hope you got this right. If you want, you can take a screenshot from here. If you want to revise, take a screenshot. Moving on to the next practice question. Read this carefully again, and this is again asking you which of these is not correct. Think about what the answer should be, lock in your answer, and then we can discuss. If you need more time, maybe pause on this screen, think about what the answer should be. Done? All right. Consider the following statements regarding Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India and its functions. Number 1. IBBI is responsible for issuing regulations to govern valuation of assets during the corporate insolvency resolution process. Yes, that is what IBBI does. They value the asset, means what is the asset of the company, for how much it should be sold, because see, asset of the company like property, etc., they can't be sold at random prices. So there has to be someone who should tell this is the fair value, this is the value at which the asset should be sold, so that then the banks can recover their money. So there has to be an entity involved. First is correct. It operates under the administrative control of RBI to align insolvency process with monetary policy. Absolutely no. There is no connection between monetary policy and insolvency policy. These are just two heavy keywords written there to confuse you. Doesn't really happen like that. It is under the control of Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So MCA, or the Ministry of Corporate Affairs as you call it, this is the ministry that overlooks this entire insolvency bankruptcy process. IBBI's model bylaws mandate insolvency professional agencies to monitor the performance of insolvency professionals. Absolutely correct. So there are multiple agencies that provide these professionals. They are kind of the providers that we have people who can run these companies. They are the one who will have to look into the working of these insolvency professionals so that they can have a clear record. But see, the insolvency professional companies also earn money through that. If they have a good relation with NCLT, they will apply to NCLT that choose our professionals or list our professionals here, they will run the company. So the professional and their working is looked into by their companies. As per Economic Survey 24-25, IBC has resolved stressed asset worth 3.4 lakh crores since its inception. That is correct. Again, coming back to the same point, I'm stressing on the same time and time again, that one of the reasons why NPAs have come down significantly in India, apart from other reasons, is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Without this, we would not have seen such a sharp decline in the NPAs in India. So that is also correct. You have to choose which of these is not correct. So the only one not correct is the second one. A thus would be the answer, because you have to choose which of these is not correct. A would be the answer here. I hope you got this one right. If you wish, you can take a screenshot here as well. You can revise it later on. Now I have a related previous year question for you, something related to what we have been discussing about stressed asset. Let's see if you can answer this one. This was asked in 2017 by UPSC in the prelims examination. See if you can answer this. Which of the following statements best describes the term Scheme for Sustainable Structuring of Stressed Asset, S4A, recently seen in the news? So recently in the news means in the context of 2017 it was in the news. It is a procedure for considering ecological cost of developmental schemes formulated by the government? No. It is a scheme of RBI for reworking the financial structure of big corporate entities facing genuine difficulties? Yes. That is what the S4A scheme was. The companies that were facing these problems, that they could not pay the loan back, to restructure them in some way to make them more efficient, to have them save more money, to have more profit, so that the money can be given back. So that it's a win-win situation for both the banks, that is the financial institution, the lenders who have lent the money, and it's a situation that is profitable for those also that were running the company. It works in their interest as well. Their company and the control does not go out of their hand, because what is happening in insolvency and bankruptcy code, in most of the cases, the control of running the company is going out of the hands of the owners or the chairman or the CEO, etc. In this case, that will not happen. B would be thus the correct answer here. If you wish, you can take a screenshot from here. That was the entire purpose of this scheme. It was launched in 2016. That's why it was asked in 2017. It was a current affairs based question. On that note, this was our class for the day. We come to an end of the topics that we wanted to discuss today. Do stay tuned. We have 4 more classes to go for economics, where a bunch of other topics will be discussed in detail, especially the ones that have been in the news. And as you can see here, there is a live example in front of us about how current affairs based questions are very common in the prelims, especially from the economics point of view. So do not miss out on any of the earlier classes. Also, in case you are new here, you had not attended the earlier classes, there are a couple of things I want you to do. Number 1, first do hit the subscribe and the like button. Secondly, watch the earlier classes as well. You will see all of these listed in the playlist in front of you. Don't miss out on any of these. If you want any other information about our courses at Narayana IAS Academy, do check out the description of the video. There's a link to that and you can get all this information. Thank you so much. My name is Harshmeet Singh. I'll see you in the next class tomorrow at 12 p.m. Bye-bye. Take care of yourself. Jai Hind.